the necessary frequencies, and the fees of these frequencies were estimated with thousands of dollars. And considering the things that are related to the intervention issues that might affect the electricity service providing, the Commission had many meetings and workshops with oil sector companies to follow up and to put plans that will cope with the results required from this vital sector, and to study the realistic solutions in order to rise up with the current reality for these companies through investment in the information technology and communication. In addition to that, and coming from the endeavors of the
in the technology world. So we worked on providing services for the institutions, in addition to updating our network, in addition to developing our HR. Nowadays, the institutions, our companies are not conventional, working in a conventional way. No, it is obligatory to provide unconventional ways when it comes to services. We, as UCL, we work with other companies to update their mechanisms through studying their requirements and providing advisory for them, and also giving proposals for the companies. As I mentioned to you, this is like not a matter of luxury, but it's a matter of developing ourselves in order to develop our work and to continue. Of course, this comes through the added value services we provide for them, in addition to the support we provide for our partners. Now we are developing infrastructure, which is very vital, and we'd like to thank Dr. Ali when he talked about the financial inclusion. This is actually a vital matter. Nowadays, telecom companies require infrastructure in order to facilitate their non-bankery exchanges. Also, this is a boosting for the thrive of the work and to create a peaceful environment for the economy. Now, this forum today is Energy Forum, and of course it links to technology. Technology flows into other fields. Now, talking about like ICSL, we know that technology is an obligation for us to update. So we have many layers to update, or sorry, many layers that the technology support. In number one, our staff. Our company is fully automated. PRS, PM, and our ticketing system, all of which supports the staff to do their task and responsibility, and so all automated and as fast as possible in order to develop our network. Now, when it comes to our customers, we provide non-conventional ways to communicate with our company, different interfaces and other methods. Now, when it comes to the network, of course, we'd like to create some updates for the network that would go in hand with the world, and the updates for the networking we made a lot. I will be as brief as possible when it comes to the update on the network of SSL, because we are pioneer in our work. Number one, the network functional visualization, and also the compensation. Now, I will not get your mind twisted with the details. I'm going to speak just as brief as possible. Such services will make the network as automated as possible, as this is for the sustainability of the services that we provide. Now, when it comes to the corporate, we provide M2M and the billing and water disaster. This is for the dams and other. We have the electronic gates, the e-gate, and we have other. Now, what I mean by saying this, the service that we provide for the services, sorry, for the companies, are non-conventional. It will facilitate the communication between the companies and the customers of them. Now, in order to maintain this effort, we must have investment in the network. And I mentioned we have investment. We pay taxes of them to the government, and we are preparing to have a future network. We are moving towards the 4th generation as we have the approval of the CNC. This update comes through to national partners like Ericsson, Huawei, Nokia. We have MOUs with them in order to update our current network, and also to update the upcoming generations as well. Now, when it comes for the obstacles, we try to overcome all the obstacles through having partnership with the Minister of Communication, for example. We have many projects in order to deliver to our Iraqi citizens. Nowadays in Iraq, we always hear about security incidents, but now we have new explosions happening, which is the data explosions. We have a massive data online. It is being consumed heavily, and it is increasing gradually. It increased. Now I'm going to give you some figures, and I'm not going to take you much into details. I'm going to talk only about we were like 40% smartphones in 2014 on working on 3G. Now we have 70% mobile phones, so we are increasing like 6% every year. With the launch of LTE, and it is approved by the CNC, we think that's gonna increase more and more. So we are doing great, even though we have many obstacles and challenges. For the voice, we have penetration 90%, so we have very unique users when it comes to the services. And about the LTE, the doctor talked about these surfaces, and we're gonna have more penetration on the voice and the data. Now, why it is very important to have penetration on the voice and the data? Because all economic studies says that the more internet penetration, the more GDP for the individuals will increase. So the study talks about 4 to 10% increase in the GDP. That is in parallel with the increase in the internet penetration. Now we have many opportunities in Iraq. Yes, we all use internet, but the penetration in Iraq is only 50% on the internet. The users of internet in Iraq is 50%. This also gives an opportunity to increase our penetration, also a challenge to increase our penetration in order to go in hand with the other regional countries, international countries. Now speaking about the cell phones, we are working like we are using 60% using smartphones in Iraq. Now this is all figures and calculations related to the funds and others. Now I'm going to speak briefly about the top investment. Our top investment is HR, human resources, through developing our local staff and through developing the youth of Iraq. We have seen that there is a great awareness in the youth of Iraq. They have many activities. We saw that it is really a good business to work on. So we work through social media, Facebook, or other through SMEs. So we wanted to help them through our experience. So annually we take students from the universities and we give them excellence, business excellence, and we trained many on the business excellence. So our staff themselves will be providing the training, and when we graduate them, maybe we'll take them into our own company. So it's a development for ourselves. And we trained, like for our own staff, we trained around 3,000 staff member. Now empowering the youth is really vital nowadays, because they are truly and without courtesy the youth of the generation, and they are very reliable. They are holding many reliable projects. So we take their specialties, and in ACHL we try to give attention to their specialties. Hopefully we passed the black area. Now we are going to the white area, and also we the attention back in the day, the attention was to the humanitarian issues. We had attention to the humanitarian issues, we had the IDBs and others, but nowadays we are giving attention to more fields, sport and others. I hope I did not take much of your time, and thank you very much. شكرا جزيلا استاذ على القاء الكلمه. Now we would like to invite Mr. Ali Zahid, the CEO of Zain. If you may please take the floor. Peace be upon all of you. تم الطلب مني بأن أقدم الإنجليزي، هذا سوف أقدم.
Dr. Ali for his presentation, and I'm going to be very careful what I say because it could be I receive a penalty after this presentation. And thank you, Saman, our valued competitor in Iraq. I want to talk about investments in Iraq. We are, if it works. Good. Overall, at the beginning, my name is Ali Azad. I'm the CEO of Zain Iraq. We are the biggest operator in Iraq. And let's talk a little bit about the market itself. The mobile telecom market exists, majority of it's mobile. Small part is wireless, and a less smaller part is fixed. We have a mobile penetration of 95% in Iraq. We have our overall GDP contribution is above 2%, which is 4.5 billion US dollar a year. And we have over 12 million mobile broadband customers in Iraq. Why we have so little fixed customers? Because before the liberation of Iraq in 2003, the infrastructure was already very old, not very used, and has never been developed afterwards. We are looking currently today, I think, at 27,000 customers who are using fixed, and we don't expect that this is going to increase after the services that we are providing. Looking at Iraq today, we have a median age of 22 years, which is very good news for all businesses in Iraq, which means you have a huge population that it's coming up into the job market. There's a huge population which is receiving their first salary. We have a youth of, unfortunately, unemployment of 25%. We have internet users over 20 million, and we have mobile users over 37 million in Iraq. We have a smartphone penetration at 59%, mobile broadband at 30%, bank account penetration 8%, and credit card penetration at only currently at 1%. These are the two challenges in Iraq, which is bank accounts and credit cards, which new businesses have been established and pushing these two items forward. Yeah, that's for our foreign investors which are here. If you look at the crime rate in Baghdad, you see a huge decline over the last years. We're looking at today, from beginning of 2019 until today, you have 228 deaths in terms of crime in Baghdad, and at the same time 330 in Chicago. So I assume most of you came with security. I would ask you the question if you would have used this security also in Chicago. I don't think so, but the chances to get killed in Chicago is much higher than it's currently in Baghdad, which is very good for businesses that are coming up. It's very good for us as mobile operators, which are serving most of the customers in Iraq. Looking at Zain Group, or Zain Iraq is part of Zain Group. We are representing 32% of all customers of Zain Group. Zain Group exists in 8 markets in the Middle East and Africa. We are contributing 28% of revenues for all the Zain Group, and we are the #1 operator in Iraq with a market share of 43%. This is about Zain overall. What we have done in terms of contribution to Iraq, we have a $5 billion investment into Iraq since we have started operating in 2004. We have 20 million annual spent on media and social projects. I think most of the media channel that actually like to talk about us live actually from our contribution to their channels. $200 million and plus annual contribution to the government in form of taxes, in terms of social project that we're doing together. $200 million spent on reconstruction in governorates where we have done a rebuild after these governorates were destroyed. I give you an example. Anbar, which was one of our leading governorates in terms of revenue, was contributing over $16 million a month. When ISIS took over Anbar, it went down to $1 million. We continued on this $1 million for over 2 years, and we have invested over $65 million in rebuilding our network in Anbar. This has happened without any contribution from any side, which means we have done this on our own. That's part of the challenges of being an investor in Iraq. We have over 1,805 employees, and we are supporting over between 50 and 60,000 families across the country in terms of direct and indirect benefits in terms of salary. This is where we are located. We are located in 3 cities in Iraq. One of them is Erbil. The headquarters is in Baghdad, and we are the only operator which is located with the headquarters and the majority of their staff in Baghdad. And our south headquarter is in Basra. This pictures of our headquarter in Baghdad. We have 98% of our employees are Iraqi employees. Every operator, every modern business is living also from foreign knowledge and from in terms of consultants, in terms of experts. We are at 90% Iraqi employees. I'm Iraqi myself. We have 20,000+ direct and indirect employment through our point of sales, through our headquarters. And we have currently a rate of 39% female recruitment. We are looking at the female recruitment in a very serious way because we believe this is a very important subject for this country. So we have increased our female recruitment from 25% to 39% within 1 year. And we expect to be the leading operator of all Zain operations in terms of female staff across all operations. And I think that's a significant achievement for us. We are going to be at around 31%, hopefully by end of this year. We have an internship program and a women empowerment program. We also started a month ago a program which is called We Able. We Able means hiring staff that has that is paralyzed, that is sitting in wheelchairs, that have faced incidents. So we have hired, I think, 21 people till now, and we are looking on increasing this number over the next month. These are our youth programs because, as I told you, the median age in Iraq is 22 years. So it's very important to give the youth a certain possibilities, certain opportunities to take care of. We have the internship program, we have the entrepreneurship program, where we have a panel within Zain Iraq, where we're looking on quarterly ideas of people outside of the company who wants to start a company, and we are starting to fund this project. We have youth ideas competition, we have Jama'ati campaign, which is my university. We have summer training, and we are hiring fresh graduates. The positive part, and I can say that this came as a surprise to myself, hiring fresh graduates resulted into hiring new ideas, fresh ideas. I think there's a quite difference in terms of the generation that is leaving university now in comparison to the generations that leave the university before. They're much more open-minded, much more interested to take risks, much more hungry on a career. And to be honest, whoever wants to work in a government function, with us, it would not be the right place. So it's a very competitive environment, but we are very happy with the results that we have seen. This is in terms of data traffic in Iraq, and I think that's important to see how big the hunger is in the Iraqi population for data. You compare the data from 2014 until 2019. You see the data traffic has grown 50 times since launch of 3G in 2015. If you look at today how the Iraqi population is using 3G, it is how a 4G market data is being used. So therefore, and I'm happy today the regulators are here, because what this country really needs is that we move ahead with the 4G license, we move ahead with investments in Iraq. You see that in 2016 we invested a little bit less than $97 million in terms of capex, in terms of investment into our network. We're looking this year of investing around $190 million. This $190 million are calculated based on that we expect that 4G has to happen in the coming 2 to 3 months, because we have to prepare our network, and that's what we have planned at the beginning of 2019. So all of this investment goes towards our capex investment in terms of increasing customer experience and in specific data traffic. These are our digital services that we're offering. We are transforming into a digital society across the world, and I think Iraq should take the lead. Whoever visited here any government entity and had to collect any paper would definitely agree with me that moving into a digital transformation would be the right thing to make it easier for everyone. We're looking today at projects, and we have implemented projects in terms of smart metering, which means you can actually pay your bill online over your phone for the electricity that you spent. This is a very important project also for the government, looking that over 78% of the Iraqi population is not paying the electricity bill. It gives also any official entity the possibility to collect income that is really needed. This is also our challenges, if we want to talk about challenges for Zain Iraq and for the competition of Zain Iraq. It is the internet costs. Today, the Iraqi market, we have to pay over $50 per gigabyte. And you compare it to countries like Kuwait at $4, Bahrain, KSA 4.5, Jordan 2, Turkey 1.1, and the States at $0.2. These prices for us to buy the internet, and we have to buy the internet from the Ministry of Telecommunication, makes it almost impossible to turn this into a more efficient business, because we have to transform then these prices to our customer base. And our customer base, if you want to compare how we are buying internet and how we are charging our customers, this is in comparison how a customer gets charged between these countries. We saw Turkey, for example, was at $1.1 per gigabyte, now gigabit, sorry, and now you see Turkey at 2.2 per gigabyte, and we are charging our customers less. So the key elements do not make it possible for Zain Iraq or for our competitors to be financially more profitable. And it's an unfair competition between us and these countries because the price that we are buying the internet for. Comparing now what Zain Iraq and we are paying as a support to the government, I think it's a number one. If I look social media in Iraq, and if we talk, if I see some parliament members talking about telecom, I surely know they don't know what they're talking about, because this is what we are paying government fees, $465 million in 2018, with a net profit of 54 million. In comparison to 2017, where we made 29 million net profit, and 2016, where we made -5. These are official numbers. You can get these numbers from our homepage. And I think that's key items to be addressed to the Iraqi government. This is overall investment in comparison to our net profits. We have invested $2.2 billion in network. We have invested 1.6 almost billion into license, taking into consideration that we bought a 3G license for $307 million, the most expensive license in the world. Nobody paid as much as an operator in Iraq for a license, and also taking into consideration this was a 7 years license instead of 15. Acquisition from our side, we bought one of our competitors at 1.2 billion, and this makes a total investment of almost $5 billion since Zain Iraq has been established. Our competitors to build in their own fiber in the country, or we have to depend on the Ministry of Telecommunications implementing fiber. But a very good experience on 4G is not going to happen without a serious investment into 4G, into fiber. You look at the internet bandwidth, if you do not compare us with the USA, but compare us with Jordan, with 781 in comparison to 1.3 in Iraq, then you know that it is really, really needed. These are the challenges to overcome in the future. High taxes on mobile only. Because one of the items that is happening, all operators get charged, have a revenue share to pay, have an income tax to pay, and have a sales tax to pay. And mobiles in Iraq do not see any tax. Everyone can bring in mobiles into the country, sell devices, there is no tax on it, but the operators are getting charged. OTT service, everyone knows it. That's a game, that's a worldwide game that is not only related to us. We're talking here about Viber and WhatsApp and all the other services. Then fiber availability and investment rules, we just talked about it. International bandwidth costs, despite the fact that they have come down to 50, because they were at 100 before, we have to go for another aggressive step to reduce prices. And we have an aggressive competition thanks to Saman and his buddies. Thank you.
Many thanks to Ali Zahid, the CEO of Zain Iraq, for his insightful presentation. I'm now going to ask the representative of the UNESCO, Mr. Paolo Fontani, or Mr. Rory who's representing him to give a speech. Sorry. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, guests of honor, I'm standing in for Paolo Fontani. My name is Rory Robertshaw. I work at UNESCO and lead the education program. I'm going to take a slightly wider view now and look at the impact new technologies are having on the labor force and what that might mean in the future for education providers. I'm looking at the question from a global perspective, but I think you'll see that many of the issues and trends that are happening on a global level are playing out in the local economy too. We're witnessing a number of significant global trends in employment. Of particular concern is the situation facing young people, evident in declining labor force participation, with unemployment reaching unprecedented proportions. Young people are almost 3 times more likely to be unemployed than adults. Where young people are employed, this is increasingly in low-quality jobs characterized by low pay, informality, and prospects of working poverty. The ILO estimate that 23% of young people who are currently employed earn less than $1.25 cents a day. Also, there's an estimated 621 million young people aged between 18 and 24 who are not in education or employment or in training. These are astonishing figures and I think should raise alarm for all of us. Moreover, in the next 10 years, there will be around 1 billion young people entering the labor market in search of jobs, with the vast majority of these not resident in the advanced economies. The situation facing young women is especially worrying. Of those 620 million young people not in education, employment, and training, young women make up the majority. Driven by gender norms, unemployment affects young women more than young men in most regions of the world, but especially so in North Africa, where 44.3% of young women are unemployed, and in the Arab states, a figure of 44.1%. So in the Arab region, the unemployment rate for young women is double that of young men. So given the existing problems of unemployment and the significant pressures on future employment, what are the means of addressing this? Frankly, there's not a single answer to this question, but a complex mix of systemic factors overlaid by demographics and other trends. However, we see historically that economies that are not growing do not create jobs. So the broad factors that stimulate economic development offer a starting point for analysis. Productivity, competitiveness, investment, and access to finance can support economic growth in the context of supportive regulatory frameworks in a particular economy or market. Where these conditions are enabling, job creation is often anchored in a small number of leading newer firms creating market opportunities for products and services through innovation. Skills, too, play an important role in improving the resilience of economies and have a potential to create sustainable jobs. However, investment in skills is a blunt instrument if investment in the supply of skills is not aligned with the current and future demand for skills in the economy. Government can play a role in stimulating and diversifying economies and investing in education and employment. But the degree to which this has happened is mediated by political priorities and competing fiscal pressures, such as the need to service public debt, to make pension payments, social transfer payments, spending on other parts of the economy, security, health, etc. Aside from government, business and individuals also invest directly in skills and this is certainly a growing trend that we see internationally, where the burden on growing our qualifications is increasingly falling on individuals or the companies that they work for. Where there's an absence in the investment in skills, there is a risk of establishing a low skills equilibrium, and this is essentially a vicious circle of low added value, low education attainment, low wages, and poor quality jobs, resulting in sustained high levels of unemployment or underemployment in parts of the economy or across economies as a whole. With globalization and particularly the impact of new technologies, the depth, speed, and extent and impact of change in those economies is set to reach unprecedented heights. This is certainly the case when considering the future demand for skills. This is a really quite revealing fact. It is estimated now that 65% of children entering primary schools today will end up eventually working in completely new types of jobs, job areas that currently don't even exist. So this creates a real challenge, but also an opportunity for education planners and providers, and indeed employers. Digitalization, big data, automation, including artificial intelligence and robotics, as well as the adoption of innovation across disciplines, creating new sectors like mechatronics and bioinformatics. These are ushering in dramatic shifts in the global economy, in the prospects of future employment, and the skills required in the future to access jobs. Aside from creating new job categories and skills demand, automation and other disruptive technologies have the potential to replace 15% of work hours globally, extended to as much as 25% of working hours in advanced economies. So this is across job roles, but on average, 25% of what we do in the future will be replaced by machines that do those functions for us. So we're talking about a radical reshape of the way we work and expectations of job roles. This is particularly impacting on jobs that require collection or processing of data and involve predictable physical routines. Despite the displacement of workers that may arise from automation, other employment opportunities from technology and innovation and new service models may help offset this. For example, the need to respond to economic challenges such as caring for aging populations, climate change, the demand for renewable energy and sustainable green technologies, as well as increased consumption opportunities arising in emerging economies. Increasingly, jobs will become more fluid and more collaborative, with people needing to move from project to project, from employer to employer, and from employment to self-employment, with the prospect of a lifelong career being replaced by individual and collective responsibility to pursue lifelong learning, because that's what will allow people to generate the new skills that are required for this fluid economy and keep pace with the continually changing labor market. Although differentiated patterns for advanced and developed economies, although there are differentiated patterns, generally mid-level roles are the ones which are prone to shrink in the future, whereas low-level skills are the most prone to demands for flexibility and cost reduction. High-level skills will be in the highest demand in areas requiring creativity, problem-solving, and communication skills. The education system needs to reorientate itself to the pace and extent of this change if it is to play a more decisive role in supporting the transition of young people, in particular young women, into productive employment, or to facilitate the reskilling of unemployed and to support lifelong learning needs of employees in the modern economy. General education, higher education, technical and vocational education and training all have roles to play, although to some extent these boundaries between different types of education will become less important in the future. What is essential, however, is the notion of education providers anticipating and being responsive to labour market demand for skills if job creation and better jobs are to be maximised. Additionally, there will also be an inevitable need for individuals to take increased responsibility for self-management of their learning. Secondly, education providers and the education system as a whole needs to strengthen its partnership with employers, both as a means of strengthening labour market intelligence, but also to ensure that programs, educational programs, are co-produced or at the very least are relevant and aligned to the needs of employers. Graduates must possess relevant qualifications. That is to say, they should have the right knowledge, skills and competencies to match the needs of the labour force. This raises a number of challenges, namely how to access continuously updated and precise information about the skills needs of enterprise in various economic sectors. Actually, this is something that the government of Iraq has been quite active in recently. UNESCO, with funding from the European Union, have undertaken a series of labour market skills analysis which have been published for public consumption as a way of looking at what the changes are in the local labour market. As well as this, we need to address the high economic cost, particularly of technical education, and we need to look at the cultural and traditional obstacles that get in the way of learning, in particular in relation to female participation in technical courses. I think the other issue in terms of technical education is that the low esteem and priority that many societies, including I would say in Iraq, give to this particular aspect of the education system. A national technical education system financed and operated by government, even in the wealthiest nations, will fall short of keeping up with the pace of technology development and the need for frequent investment in workshops and the equipment necessary for learning. Facing these challenges creates the need for private sector participation or even integration in the technical education sector, with employers in a position to contribute some or all of the following: professional expertise in decision-making processes, co-development and delivery of curricula, supervision of learners during workplace-based training, and the formal assessment of learners, providing updated information about labour market training needs and contribution to joint innovative financing arrangements. Thirdly, there's an opportunity to change the nature and content of education delivery, and how it's assessed. Curriculum can be designed to better deliver the skills and competencies required by employers, but this is not a new idea, and it's not enough, since changes in the structure of the labour market require training approaches to reflect the fluidity of future employment, and better equip learners with transversal skills, such as communication, problem-solving, teamwork, collaborative skills, and skills that more readily support employability and self-employment. In regard to the latter, cultural and attitudinal factors often limit young people, opting for self-employment. Simply put, people with a family background in entrepreneurship are more likely to consider this option than people whose parents, for example, work in government. However, there may be less choice in the future, and more needs to be done to prepare people for self-employment. And entrepreneurship is the fastest growing skills need. It's estimated to be growing by up to 30% to the period 2030. Successful self-employment on the one hand depends on specific occupational skills and experience, and on the other in terms of generic competencies, behaviors and attitudes, such as a desire for independence, risk-taking, networking, communication skills. There's also a need to supplement functional business skills in areas of human resource management, finance management, as well as transferring key business knowledge in areas such as taxation, business legislation, and financing. Increasingly, the provision of these skills needs to be embedded in wider education and training delivery, not delivered in isolation from wider learning. Government has a mandate to ensure equality of access to tailored skills provision. This means focusing on women and the disadvantaged groups, in doing so unlocking talents and creating potential for wider economic benefits. Finally, the structure of learning programs and the models of delivery of education should also reflect the flexibility required in the workplace. This requires a stronger focus on on-the-job training, incremental programs where people can study in blocks or modules, intensive short-duration degree courses, the digitalization of learning and learning delivery, just to name a few. Education providers need to do more to bridge the divide between learning and work, shifting attention to supporting young people in their transition from learning to employment, or assist employees who are moving from one form of employment to another. The means to achieve this range from careers guidance, work experience, employer-based training programs such as apprenticeships, traineeships, and internships, and the establishment of innovation and entrepreneurship hubs to support bottom-up innovation and self-employment. If the education sector globally embraces change, it can lead to a point where educational institutions themselves are a microcosm of wider economic and societal transformation, characterized by the digitization of teaching and learning, greened campuses, seamless partnerships with employers, and fulfilling their role of champions of lifelong learning and facilitating employment for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Robichaud, for delivering the speech of Paolo Fontane to the audience. Now I will ask Mr. Adnan Al-Janabi to deliver a token of appreciation to Mr. Ali Nasser Khwaildi, the Manager of Communications and Media Commission, for their continuous support to the Iraq Energy Forum and the constructive relationship between the CMC and IEI. ندعو الأستاذ عدنان الجنابي لتقديم هدية إلى الأستاذ علي ناصر الخويلدي لدعم الهيئة لعمل المعهد ولشكرهم على دعم هذا المنتدى. شكرا للسادة المتكلمين على كلماتهم. سنبدأ بالجلسة الحوارية الأولى. Thank you to the We'll start with the first plenary session. The session is titled Technology, Telecommunications and E-Government. Speakers on the session are Adil Salman, Communications Director at the CMC, Laith Riyadh from Zain, B2B Manager, also Aus Yunus from ASIACEL, a PR expert, Rawaz Raouf, Commercial and Regulatory Advisor at Fanos Telecom, in addition to Mohammed Al-Hakim, Kareem, General Manager in Iraq. Of course, this session is going to be moderated by the talented Ramon Beluca, the former EU Ambassador to Iraq. We always are surprised with his many talents. الجلسة الحوارية سيكون فيها من المتكلمين الأستاذ عادل سلمان من هيئة الاتصالات، ليث رياض من زين، أوس يونس من شركة آسياسيل، راوز رؤوف من شركة فانوس، ومحمد علي الحكيم من شركة كريم. سيقود هذه الجلسة رامون بلوكا السفير السابق للاتحاد الأوروبي في العراق. شكرا جزيلا. Please, everybody, come to the stage. Thank you. اعتذاراتي. Apologies. We have forgotten Mahab Al-Kurkash. I'm sorry, the agenda keeps on changing. Mahab is the head of governance and reconciliation pillar. She's a program specialist with the UNDP. Mahab will cover the e-governance side of the first session. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Yasar, for presenting this interesting panel. We have here a very talented group, and we hope we are going to address the many challenging questions regarding technology, communications, and e-governance. Well, I would like to first make the short presentation before inviting all our panelists to do a 5-minute presentation from the floor, no podium. And if possible, if somebody requires the podium, then please, but please keep it short, and I would like to also include a debate among the panelists. I think we have to take advantage of your expertise before we open the floor for questions. I think it's been many interesting subjects that have been already presented in this forum. The questions of Iraq's potential success story, the unprecedented security, as Ali Sahid has pointed out, political stability, plenty economic resources, and also the many challenges that Iraq is facing. I will not like to repeat, but maybe we can summarize, because this has been also, and it's affecting the whole environment in which telecommunications and business development takes place. The unclear legal framework, and sometimes the obstacles, the regulatory obstacles, the weak financial system, and the inefficiencies in the public sector, and all this, the lack of proper management or the corruption that affects the bureaucracy, and lack of services and the gaps in education that have been the result of the neglect and sometimes the crisis, the wars, the sanctions that for the last 30 years have affected Iraq. So this is a heavy burden, a heavy heritage. I've been involved very much during my time as EU ambassador here with the whole reconstruction process, from the conference in Kuwait till the launching of the different initiatives. And I have always seen that the burden of rebuilding the destruction from the wars, from the fight against Daesh, sometimes is a tremendous challenge in terms of resources, in terms of the political priorities. And I always thought that maybe Iraq had an opportunity, instead of rebuilding the past, to building a better future. And obviously, telecommunications and IT are a key element of that process. And that is something I would like you to address. If we are moving from the geopolitics of oil to the geopolitics of IT, if the new wars are about 5G and who controls 5G. Iraq, that has a tremendous potential as a hydrocarbon superpower, may also have the temptation to look too much to the past instead of really unleashing the potential that will make that revolution possible. And I think the presentations that we had before from Mr. Mojan and Mr. Sahid are a very good base, so we don't need to really go back on the situation of the business, on what is the actual state of the telecommunication and the IT in Iraq, but we can move onto these challenges. And I'm going to steal one of the lines from my friend Rawaz, because we were discussing before the session that if railways were the infrastructure of the 19th century and roads were the infrastructure of the 20th century, broadband is the infrastructure of the 21st century. And here we have somebody that can answer to us if there is plans to really unleash and open that those regulations that will allow the private sector to move on. So is this IT revolution possible in Iraq? Is just enough to introduce some of these regulatory changes to really open that space? Are the operators ready? Is the market capable? And is the workforce capable also to supply the needed expertise? We have seen what Zain has been promoting in terms of better human resource management and educational project, but this has to be obviously, this has to reach a much more national dimension. So these are the first issues that I would like you to address, and we will start with Salman, who can give us some of the answers from the government side.
Thank you, Ramon. I will switch to Arabic. Excuse me. Thank you very much. بالطبع تكلم مستر رامون والسادة الأفاضل على واقع حال الاتصالات في العراق. راح أعطي بعض من الواقع والتحديات والطموح ما تأمله. أولاً حاب أن أقدم نفسي مهندس عادل سلمان، مدير دائرة تنظيم الاتصالات في هيئة الإعلام والاتصالات. في الحقيقة الهيئة في عام 2004 استلمت تركة ثقيلة جداً فيما يتعلق بقطاع الاتصالات. العراق مر من عام 1990 إلى عام 2004 عام 2003.
From 1990 to 2003, we had a great gap between us and the world, and the Commission, since its establishment, we have endeavored to develop this sector, and the challenges in this sector are great, and we need services, infrastructure. So since 2004, actually we started. But the first launch was in 2005 in October. After what we received the database and the frequencies in a preliminary way, and we started negotiation. You know, Iraq was under the control of the U.S. government, so we had to cooperate and collaborate between us in order to get our frequency spectrum. The Commission and its responsibilities were responsible for the wired and wireless and telecommunication or information technology. In 2005, we have actually launched the services of the mobile phones. Afterwards, in 2006, we had licenses for the fixed wireless phones, and in 2007, we've given licenses for 15 years for the 3 known mobile companies. The challenges were clear, but thanks to Allah, and regardless of this difficult security situation, we have cooperated with the mobile telephone companies. We have cooperated in regarding the infrastructure of these mobile telephone companies, but in 2014 affected the infrastructure of the mobile phone companies due to ISIS in 3 provinces: Ramadi, Kirkuk, and Mosul provinces. Ramadi, Saladin, and Mosul completely destroyed the infrastructure. Diyala was partly destroyed in the system. This created a big challenge for the Commission and the companies how to rise up again with the reality of the services for the telecommunication services in these areas. Thanks to Allah, we have in cooperation with companies, we have overcome this stage, and currently the Commission is about to give licenses for the wide range spectrum and to give the mobile phone companies the 4th-generation 4G. And we have contracts with consultants companies, global consultants, and we have very important issues. For example, the frequency spectrum. We still have issues since we have some military spectrum, so we have to negotiate with the Iraqi government according to for the 4G packets for the military and for the civil users. Thanks to Allah, we could get very important frequencies for the 4G. The main problems nowadays is yes, the Commission will launch the 4G and LTE broadband, but what about the infrastructure? These services, the 4G and the fixed broadband, the main infrastructure is the fiber optic, but due to the last period until today, there is a bit of issues with the service. Now we are in negotiations with the Minister of Communications and the Iraqi government to revive this sector because it's vital. And we need to fix the infrastructure, and I don't think there will be many advances regarding this issue, but for the mobile phone companies, what we are doing actually prior to 2011, it was the difficulty of surveying, but after contracting with global companies that were brought to evaluate our services, we were able to do more surveys across the countries and provide and improve our services.
شكرا أستاذ على العرض. الآن سوف ننتقل للمتحدث التالي. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Layth Riyadh. I am the internship director of Zain Iraq. So the business in Iraq in general, we are dominating more than 90% of the oil sector. When it comes to the business solutions and mobile solutions, telecom solutions, in addition to other companies working in the governmental sector. So we could say that most of the sponsors today are our clients actually in Iraq Zain, and this is actually in our pleasure that we are always in contact with our clients. One of the top matters that we would like to clarify on this regard, the company, as Mr. Ali Zahid mentioned, that the liberation of the occupied cities was a challenge, and to build the infrastructure in those cities was a challenge, and also to retrieve our customers was very challenge, and they were our wheel for the company, the wheel that drives the company, the customers, you know. So many things happened on different levels, the infrastructure and other fields links to the business of Iraqi Zain. The major challenge was represented in that our clients always thirsty to have more and more services, and they always compare the service we deliver to the regional international service, especially when it comes to the speed of the internet or other services added. So Zain always attempt to invest in more and more services so that we would have the best experience possible. We call our clients partners, so we partnership with our clients and would like to benefit from them on their requirements and to provide more services according to their requirements. Now, yes, we dominate most of the sector, oil sector and the energy sector in Iraq. We recently launched one of the major projects on the level of digital service, or how to digitalize our services. And I'm talking about the smart metering in the region in cooperation with the Ministry of Electricity of KRG. This will provide more than 400,000 smartphones that will offer digital communication. We want to go out of the box of the manual communication and paying taxes, paper taxes for electricity, and so this is really a good step moving forward towards digitalized system of communication. Thank you very much. شكرا جزيلا. بالتأكيد سوف نعود إلى حضرتك.
Development. And I have a question for you on that. And now we have Aus Junis from, he's the communication
SSL.
And PR, I think, from SSL. Yeah. Please, the floor is yours. Okay.
Dr. Ali Nasser Al-Khwardi, Mr. Ashraf Dahan from the CMC, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aus Yunus, PR expert in SSL. In the beginning, we agree that I'm not going to use the PowerPoint or presentation. Is going to be sitting down and explaining the role of SSL in a lot of terms. I'm not going to define SSL as a leading provider in mobile communication or data mobile communication. Yet, I'm going to be very briefly explaining the role of SSL in terms of enhancing and empowering the ecosystem, the businesses and solutions, services that SSL providing for the corporation enterprises, whether big, small, or medium, SMEs, huge enterprises. Most of them are sitting in here or participating in this conference. The SSL role and the using of technology, in-house technologies that enhancing the daily tasks of its employees, which is more than 3,000 employees, the direct employees and the more than 50,000 indirect employees. The technology as a key feature or a key instrument of SSL in delivering the best service and to cooperate along with 14 million customers. So we believe in SSL that every corporate, whether it's small or big, needs a healthy network. It's not depends upon its field, whether it's in energy, oil, petroleum, agriculture, any field, it needs a network. And we believe that in Iraq, we do have, all the communication or operators here in Iraq do have the connectivity. In SSL, we do cover almost 99% of Iraq. So every corporate or enterprise that's supposed to work here in Iraq needs a healthy network. We do have this network that covers the area of Iraq. Yet, in SSL, we believe that we invested more in our network because nowadays in Iraq, there is a tremendous change of the needs of the data. As Mr. Saman said in his presentation, the data is not a one thing, it's not a luxury anymore, it's a need. Especially after the changes in the needs of data. For example, the online services, the streaming, the online games, the computing or cloud computing services. So the need of the data should be expanded. Thus, we put a lot of caps on the market to enhance the network, make it ready to cooperate or to work on the next generation 4G LTE. That is the CMC thankfully is going to announce, as Mr. Adel explained, that CMC is going to announce the 4G, the LTE services. Yet, we also think and we do believe that In order to work and to operate the 4G or the LTE, it needs a good infrastructure, which, in my opinion, needs a lot of work and enhancement. One of the big challenges for the telecom operators is the energy itself. The form itself is talking about the energy, electricity, and whatsoever. So this kind of things, this kind of topic, the energy itself, needs a lot of enhancement to make the operators, the telecom operators, work. Because, you know, in all of Iraq, we need to put generators, backup generators, just to operate our sites. If we do have a non-cutting lines of electricity, we can go and not use the generators. The fiber optic, just like Mr. Adil from the CMC spoke about, that the good 4G, the 4G itself, it's mainly about the data. We are covering the voice or the the CS well enough in the 3G, and the 4G is going to be clearer, I know. Yet the PS or the packet services, the data itself, the internet, to be simple, needs a good infrastructure in terms of fiber optic itself, which is, I believe, is not the responsibility of the operators to do. It's the government sides to operate a good and healthy, well-connected connectivity to whole Iraq in terms of fiber. Just like from Zaina and Kaksaman saying about the data services, we are paying a lot of money just to buy those kind of data, then to resell it to our customers. So mainly if the data is expensive in the telecom operators, it's not because we are taking a lot, it's because of the data itself, the raw data we are buying is expensive. Comparing to the neighbor countries or the worldwide, we are paying a lot, tremendous amount of money just to buy those data and resell it to the customers. I'm not going to take a lot of time. We also, in the beginning, I said that SSL has a major role to go and build, enhance its network, because we believe that digital transformation is a need now in all over the world, not only in Iraq. So we did a lot of MOUs, contracts with big famous companies or vendors, just like Ericsson, just like the 3 or 4 months ago, with Ericsson, Nokia, and Huawei, to enhance the performance of the current network and make it ready to go and meet the requirements to implement the 4G or the LTE itself. We believe that enhancing this network, our network, to cover whole Iraq is going to be 99.9 for covering the whole Iraq with the 3G and the 4G. As I said, we are waiting for the license of the 4G to go and meet the requirements of the market. The market now in need for the high-speed data. The high-speed data is a need now, so are going to meet those requirements for this. One last thing, SSL, as Mr. Samansky says, that we are investing not only in network, not only in the capital of its market share, we also invest in the human resources. We know and we believe in SSL that the most important thing to invest in is the human resources. We do have plus 3,000 direct employees in the whole Iraq. We do a lot of training for the in-house and the out-house trainings. Also, on the same side, we believe that the private sector is doing a great job here in Iraq, especially the last years, to enhance the ecosystem. We have a major role to enhance and correct the ecosystem itself. And we also work to empower those individuals, just we call it the SMEs or the small business, medium enterprises, the entrepreneurships, people with ideas, empower them to work and make money. We believe, and we are doing that by empowering those individuals, those youth with these ideas. We are correcting the ecosystem. We are doing something big to correct and balance the ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think a lot of food for thought there. And now I will give the floor to Muhammad Al-Hakim, Managing Director of Karim. Please, the floor is.
Thank you very much. For you who don't know me, I'm Hamid Al Hakim. I'm the managing director or the general manager of Careem in Iraq. Careem, as you may or may not know, is the largest technology company in the Middle East and North Africa region. Careem was launched in 2012, and in the 7 years since it has launched, it has served 40 million customers and more than 2 million captains. It launched in Iraq in 2018, beginning of 2018, and in the 2 years since it launched in Iraq, Careem Iraq has become a success story, such that Iraq has become the most or fastest growing country for Careem in the history of Careem, as well as the most interesting country in the portfolio of Careem. So going back to the question whether or not we think that we're going to see a digital transformation or an ecosystem in Iraq, I think it's not a question of when or if. It's happening, and we're the proof of it. We serve more than 600,000 customers in Iraq today, more than 15,000 captains, and those are originally taxi drivers who are now powered by the internet, using Careem's app, taking trips, using transportation online. They get paid through MasterCards, they withdraw their money, they save, they're even involved in financial institutions such as leasing. Just a couple of days ago, we actually announced that we will and we are in the process of launching in Mosul. And if we go back to the history of Careem 7 years ago, the company was formed with the mission or the purpose to simplify and improve the lives of people. And we have the same mission here in Iraq. We came with the mission of simplifying and improving the lives of Iraqis, powering it through technology. And this is what we inherently believe. We believe that through technology, we can simplify the lives and improve the lives of people. And today, we're not only a transportation company or in the transportation sector, we've also branched out into public transportation, into deliveries, into food delivery, into payments as well. And all of these verticals are verticals that will be coming to Iraq within the next 1 to 2 years. So today, as the biggest technology company in Iraq, when we look at the market, when we look at the fundamentals, there's nothing missing in Iraq to empower or to accelerate this digital transformation or the ecosystem. We have everything. We have the human capital, we have the smartphone penetration, we even have the internet penetration more or less, and we know it by hand. What we need is an environment that really promotes business. As a technology company working in the transportation sector, we're the company that faces the most disruptions out of all companies in the private sector. If the internet is blocked, our business is blocked. If the roads are blocked, our business is blocked as well. So we need an environment that is business friendly, that is internet friendly, and that promotes these kind of businesses. But the ecosystem is here, and it's already happening, and it's happening, in youth places, in small co-working spaces, and people that are inspired by the success story that Careem and other companies are creating and are starting their own businesses and investing their time and efforts and money in their own businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a good example of the potential that we have and how Iraq can be actually one of the leading countries in this process. So now Mahab Karkash, UNDP governance
head of
expert.
Yeah, just I have a
The floor is
presentation. بالبداية صباح الخير للجميع وصراحة عرضي راح يكون باللغة العربية.
I'm gonna present in English due to the organizers' request. So دعوني أقدم نفسي لحضراتكم. اسمي مهاب، أنا مسؤول عن مشروع الأعمار والحوكمة في مكتب اليو دي بي في العراق. عرضي عرضي سوف يكون حول أحد مبادرات برنامج الحماية للأمم المتحدة الذي يسمى مبادرة كربلاء الذكية، مدينة كربلاء الذكية. إذن سوف أمر مع حضراتكم بعرض عن مدينة كربلاء الذكية، والذي هو يركز عن توفير مراكز خدمات خاصة للمواطنين والمشاريع المواطنين، وما هي التحديات التي سوف تواجهها هذه المراكز، وما هي الخدمات التي سوف يتم توفيرها، وما هو الدعم الذي سوف يقدمه UNDP. إذن بالنسبة إلى مدينة كربلاء الذكية، هي أحد المبادرات الخاصة خاصة ببرنامج الإنماء للأمم المتحدة، وهو تحويل كربلاء مدينة ذكية باستخدام كل آليات الحوكمة الذكية وأدوات الحوكمة الذكية من أجل توفير خدمات مركزية في كربلاء سريعة للغاية، والملايين من العراقيين وغير العراقيين الذين يزورون كربلاء في المراقد المقدسة. هذا المشروع سوف يتم إطلاقه في كربلاء، في محافظة كربلاء أولا، ومن ثم نجاح هذه المبادرة سوف يتم نسخه وتطبيقه على محافظات أخرى. إذن نستطيع أن نستخدمها كقصة ناجحة ونستخدمها في محافظات أخرى عندما تنجح. إذن بالنسبة إلى سياق هذه المبادرة، مبادرة خاصة بكربلاء الذكية، برنامج الإنمائي للأمم المتحدة UNDP يعمل في كربلاء من أجل إطلاق خدمات ذكية عبر مراكز في كربلاء، والتي تهدف إلى تنفيذ الحوكمة الرشيدة في كربلاء من أجل تحسين الأداء الحكومي في توفير الخدمات إلى العراقيين المقيمين في كربلاء، ونحاول أن نحسن الخدمات وفق خطة وطنية بالتعاون مع الحكومة. وهذا هو الهدف من هذه المبادرة كما ذكرنا لحضراتكم. الهدف بصورة أساسية هو تحسين الخدمات الحكومية المقدمة إلى المواطنين عبر مراكزنا، وأيضا تقليل الفساد في المناطق المحلية. نحاول أن نقلل الفساد ونقلل الوقت المطلوب من أجل توفير الخدمات في المناطق النائية البعيدة عن كربلاء، في ضواحي كربلاء. إذن الهدف من هذه المبادرة هي أيضا كما قلنا لحضراتكم هي تقليل الفساد على المستوى المحلي من خلال تعبيد الطريق للتقدم بالحوكمة ووجود خدمات ممركزة بدون أي تأخير وبدون دفع أي تكاليف إضافية من أصل الحصول إلى الخدمات. بالنسبة لهذه المراكز الخاصة بنا، هذه المراكز سوف يتم تأسيسها بناء على معايير البرنامج الحماية للأمم المتحدة. هذه خدمات سوف تكون كما هي مراكزنا في الدول المجاورة، وبالتأكيد سوف نلائمها مع السياق العراقي. عندما ننصبها في كربلاء سوف تبدأ في المرحلة الأولى 24 مركز توفر خدمات، وسوف توفر أفضل خدمات. وبالمناسبة لدينا 4 مناطق مختارة سوف تكون برنامج تجريبي في كربلاء. هذه ال4 مناطق هي
حي المعلمين، الهندية، حسينية and عين التمر. And actually this suggested location is just after a intensive consultation with the local government of Karbala, including the government herself. Also, as we mentioned, we are hoping to provide 25 services. And these services, it is cover several sectors, including municipality, water, education, electricity, transportation, environment, health, sanitation, and Martyrs Foundation. As we mentioned, there are different development challenges that these centers will be addressed. First of all, it is efficiency. The goal is to create a new citizen-centric ecosystem focusing on efficiency in providing the services effortlessly and monitoring the service process to ensure continuing improvement. The second development challenges will be the transparency. These centers in Karbala will work according to the center guide adopted from the best practices in the region and internationally, which will ensure the transparency in all citizens, centers, actions, services, monitoring and evaluation procedures, and continuous improvement. This will be available through published centers, guides, reports, and press release. Also, furthermore to this, these centers in Karbala will also share its best practices, findings, citizens, and employee feedback with all Iraqi governments, governorates, and ministry aspiring to open similar centers. The other actually main development challenges, it will also address the decentralization. Those centers in Karbala Governorate will work as a model for successful local decentralized provision of services. As we mentioned at the beginning, that these services will be provided, the number of services will be 25 services. However, this is not limited. What we are hoping or intending is to also extend these services to include the services of the Ministry of Interior, mainly civil affairs, as well as service of the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs and Ministry of Agriculture. Lastly, actually, what is the linkage between citizen center, service centers and Karbala IG transformation? In addition to what we mentioned earlier, that Karbala, Smart Karbala initiative goals are to assist local government in Iraq to fulfill its service obligation towards its citizens. Also, this initiative will accelerate the Karbala Governorate e-transformation and inclusion of new services. Lastly, what is UNDP support in this regard? So actually, I tried to highlight what are the main support that UNDP can provide to this initiative. It will be through providing all needed consultancy, knowledge transfer, and training, also visits to the citizen service centers, which UNDP successfully implemented in the region or similar situation countries. UNDP Iraq also will work closely with Karbala Governorate and relevant directorates and ministries to promote this project to all local and international stakeholders. Also, Karbala Governorate will provide all the logistical, administrative, legal framework and human resources needed to launch the center within the agreed standard and to provide most of the high-impact local service to citizens of Karbala. Throughout the project, UNDP will support the capacity of relevant service directorates in Karbala Governorate, managers of Karbala Citizen Service Centers, and relevant information services in Karbala, and take the lead to be able to lead the process effectively with an aim of enhancing the capacity to expand and sustain the project and achieve citizens' digital inclusion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for this interesting project that UNDP is promoting. And last but not least, we have Rawaz Raouf, who is Commercial and Regulation Advisor of Fanus Telecom. And that I have seen he has put on his socks of thinking out of the box. So Rawaz, please.
Thank you very much, Ramon, and thank you for stealing my quote.
That just a small portion of Iraqis doesn't have a bank account, but a lot of people doesn't believe there is something called online payment or bank accounts. They save their money in their houses. The bank needs to work, needs to make a huge amount of awareness. A lot of banking systems here in Iraq doesn't support the banking itself. The banks just to go and exchange the money. It's not the banking system definition. So the payment, and for us as an example, we do have a sister company, Asi Hawala, who provides an online services, who a customer can go and open a free account in Asi Hawala, and he can pay on those services, for example, Tasweeq and Shopini, Kareem, a lot of services that people pay online who can use the online payment services using the Asi Hawala and other companies. So, in my opinion, there is services, there is a connectivity, and internet connectivity. I know there is challenges on those fields too, yet we need an awareness. We need to educate people. We need them to trust those kind of services.
I think in order to support the ecosystem, there are two things that we need to focus on. One thing is the direction of investment, whether funding or mentorship and coaching. A lot of the funding, a lot of the investment goes into CSR, the traditional understanding of CSR, that a lot of the companies and a lot of the funds, they do to tick the box. And they have to spend that kind of funding. They have to spend the money that they have because they need to present a report or they need to write something in the annual report. But we need to focus on the real stories, like you mentioned, And I think the gentleman that you were referring to is Ammar Amin, who started Miswak. There are real stories like these, and they've been around for 3, 4 years, 5 years, but then they're not receiving the support, both in terms of funding, in terms of coaching, in terms of mentorship. We need to focus on the real business opportunities and not the business opportunities that make us look good, that are PR friendly. Secondly, I think a lot of the businesses that look at this sector, the technology sector, they focus on short-term profits, on making a quick buck. And this is not a sector for making a quick buck. This is a sector that has low margins, and it needs a lot of initial investments, and it needs a lot of scale, and then you can monetize it. Careem, for example, has been around for 7 years, but it's still a loss-making entity. Uber has been around for 10 years, and is still making losses because it's investing. Amazon was making a loss for the first 10 years of its life until it became a profit and turned a profit. And this is Amazon, in the US, not in Iraq. So a lot of the companies that are in this sector, even the payment companies, the banks, etc., they're looking to make a quick buck, and they focus on use cases that can generate a profit on day one, such as, for example, salary payments, where in reality you need to create the use cases, you need to change people's mentality. Why is no one using bank accounts? Why is no one using the mobile payment services at the moment? There's no use case for it. It's easier to use cash. You need to create the value proposition for the customer, and you need to start from the grounds up and not focus on making a quick buck on day one. And that's, I think, what the companies and the funds, as well as the NGOs, need to think of when it comes to Iraq. The easy thing to do is to do like a CSR event or a CSR initiative and write about it, and you put it away and that's it. But does it have any real impact? I think we need to change our mindset in the business community when it comes to investing and mentoring and coaching startups. And when we invest in these kind of businesses, that there are different kind of businesses and different sectors that need a different type of investment with a different return and a different outlook.
Any takers from that side of the...
Yeah, so just to touch base on most of the topics that everyone has mentioned, I think I agree that the financial sector is quite weak in Iraq, and it's easy to blame only the banks, but I don't think that's fair, because we're at a telecom panel and we shouldn't be talking badly about them when they're not here. So, but there is two sides of that argument that I have heard from them. And one is that, salary payments are in cash today, and the biggest expense of the state is salaries. So if those don't go through the financial system, then what are the chances of, startups that are willing to integrate with banks to allow payments through banks? So, I do agree with you that we need use cases on the entrepreneur side and on the technology side, whether it's to pay electricity, water, whether it's to pay for your rent, etc. But also we need to have the other side of that transaction, which is that basically if you pay people cash, then they're not going to deposit at a bank, and that is a challenge. Now the other problem, of course, is the telecom infrastructure that underlies all of this, and use cases that are data intensive. I don't think we will see them for some time in Iraq. Use cases that are that require small amounts of data are there, and Careem does not require a lot of data for its connectivity. But I think if you are talking about streaming of videos on an acceptable level, whether it's IPTV or whether it's broadband at every home, I think those kind of use cases will take a while, and the world has moved really ahead in those areas. I mean, today the internet is getting richer in its media. You're seeing, whether it's an e-commerce website or a social media website, the amount of content that is required to meaningfully use them and consume the media is growing exponentially. So the infrastructure side also has to be addressed.
Thank you, Rawaz. So basically what you are saying is that the state itself is the first one who doesn't believe in the financial system because they don't pay through bank accounts. I mean, it would be very easy to make compulsory to receive your salaries through the bank account because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Iraq has about 6.5 million employees or recipients of state funds, either as pensions or as direct salaries. And that will immediately create a revolution in the financial system. And telecom companies can help by providing all sorts of e-payment or banking online, like everybody now is using all over the world.
I mean, it's really a cycle that you're trying to create. So if the cycle does not start somewhere, then it won't.
Usage of fiber optic and limited to the gateway of using it with the Ministry of Communication. The question, did the Ministry of Communication, was it able to develop this sector, or was it, or did it benefit from it, or did it bring any revenue to the state? The Ministry of Communication who did this, the reason for it was the security, or to preserve the security of the country. According to the licenses, there is a clear article for the eavesdropping, so it allows the licensed companies to open a channel for the security apparatuses, and they will be responsible for the security and not the Ministry of Communication. So this monopoly was not was illegal, and for the other point is the Ministry of Communication. What did they do in this matter? All they have done, they monopolized the fiber optic and gave it to the private companies. What is the wisdom in this? So it denies the companies from the Communication Commission and permits the private companies with what is the wisdom of this? أولا أود أن أشكر منتدى الطاقة، منتدى العراقي للطاقة على هذه الفرصة، وأنا أسأل بقوة الدكتور عدنان على توصياته حول الكيبل الضوئي وحول الأسعار. وبصراحة نحن البلد الأول في العالم الذي لديه معدل عالي من الكلفة.
We are fighting for the fiber optics. Dr. Adnan mentioned about the security issue is before, we agree with him, but now it's nothing. We have to work together with the government, with the Minister of the Communication, with the Parliament, and the private sector. Actually, we are together, okay, to put the strategy for the fiber optics and the pricing as well. Regarding the 4G and 5G and the pricing, Mr. Saman, he mentioned the price. Regarding the price, is we give it to Minister Council to decide about the price. I know in any money put over the license will be more cost for the customer. We agree, completely agree. Because the law, and we have the work together, inshallah, for the next forum for the Iraqi energy. Inshallah, we have a good news about the oil company, about the ISP, and about the operators. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity, and inshallah, we see you again.
Thank you, Dr. Ali Nasser, for these encouraging words. Well, I think that there's been a lot of extremely thought-provoking ideas. I want to thank our panelists. I don't know if there is anything left to say, something that you would like to comment on both the last two interventions. I think obviously they sound like good news.
I think it's music to my ears.
Well, I think that there is a great potential in this sector, and I think it really holds a lot of the answers that for us, international community, when we want to support Iraq's reconstruction and economic development, the connection that has to be made between the government reform agenda, between the private sector capabilities, and I think telecommunication is one of those where those capabilities can be more effective, and between the international community support to this process is huge. I think there was something mentioned here about the penetration of internet and how Iraqis are connected, and that 50% of Iraqis own a mobile phone, and that is something, and obviously they are more linked to internet than to anything else. So any process that we do through the telecommunication will reach immediately many more people and have a multiplying effect. So I am thinking that, for example, for coaching and consulting and support for private sector, if there is a linkage between the programs we do, the government policies to promote it, and the delivery through the telecommunication companies, you are actually creating your future customers. So it's in your interest to promote those kind of startups. And they will make much more efficient and effective our programs. And for the government, it will be a job creation tool. So I think beyond business, there is a lot that has to do with what I mentioned at the beginning. I think Iraq has a unique chance at this moment of, instead of reconstructing the past, building a better future. And I think these are some of the elements that can make it possible. So thank you to the Iraq Energy Forum for the initiative, for including a very interesting panel in its program, and to all of you for still, after 3 days of intense debates, be here to listen and participate in the discussions. Thank you.
I would like to thank all our speakers for their speeches and for the very interesting session that we just had about technology and telecommunications. We are disbanding for a coffee break. We will be back in 30 minutes. I hope everyone is back here by 30 minutes so we can start the next session, which will be on entrepreneurship and access to finance. Thank you very much. سنأخذ استراحة لمدة